The transformation of the 85-year-old Kuppersmith home is nearing completion, but a mountain of details still stand between us and the finish line. Big changes happen every week, but if you miss this one, you'll miss a lot. The Kuppersmith Project is a whole house renovation of this 85-year-old American Tudor home. The idea is to keep the character it was built with in 1926 while we upgrade the function and efficiency for a modern American family. The refinishing of the wood floors was just completed a few days ago, and since then, no one's been allowed inside while they were drying until today.
All right, you take that upstairs.
Artie the plumber is the first subcontractor in the house to start setting our new faucets. For the kitchen, we've chosen one called the Lindley for mowing. You use a lot of these now, don't you? As far as this finish, everybody seems to be going that route.
It's really popular finish, Danny.
So let's see, the setup here, of course, you got the faucet. I've seen this a number of times at the trade shows and so forth. Now you got one hole here, that's for...
Soap dispenser.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
got you. Okay. And then I understand we've got to get the granite guy back out to drill us another hole for the air switch.
Yeah, the pneumatic switch that goes there, and it's a neat product.
Yeah, that's a lot better to control the garbage disposal than some kind of switch on the front of here, electrical switch. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So as far as the overall setup here, you got your drains that are going in, you got the garbage disposal going in. I guess it'll go in on this side one.
Yes, sir. You're gonna put it on the right side. And got a big old sink here to put my big old pot for my crawfish in here.
Well, now after everything gets finished, and whoever buys this house, they'll probably invite you over, for dinner, right? That doesn't usually happen?
Well, if they do, Danny, I'm bringing the crawfish.
All right, there you go. You might get invited then. But now, what else you have to do? You've got things going all over this house. You've got the toilets going in.
Yes, sir.
You've got 5 different valves as far as lavatories going in.
Yes, yeah, they're mowing also, and they're in the same finish and great looking faucets
Yeah,
too.
so you got a whole lot of things to do, and of course we're working on a very tender floor, I guess you would say. I see everybody's got their socks on right now.
We're in our socks, Danny. We're not gonna mess your floors up.
Right. That's the rule on freshly sealed wood floors. No shoes at all unless you cover them with clean booties. That means everyone and everything has to tread lightly, including Mike the electrician, who's also got a house full of work to do here. Now, Mike, I wonder how many Braun Newton exhaust fans you've installed over the years.
Oh, probably several hundred.
Yeah, they've been around a long, long time, and they got them now where they're so darn quiet that some of them even have to have, I understand like lights on the switch for you to even know that they're even turned on.
That's right. That way you won't be leaving it on, be sucking all the air conditioning out of your house.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I guess the sizing of these things is real important because, of course, this is a very small bathroom right in here, but a lot of people just undersize those things, don't they?
Yeah, they do, Danny. You want to make sure that you get the proper size unit so that it'll pull the steam and the moisture out of your bathroom. Otherwise, you get some cracking in your molding, and you get mold.
And I never understood people venting these things in the darn attic. I mean, I know people don't want to have another hole in their roof, but why would you want to put everything right up in your attic?
Yeah, that's a question you'll have to ask somebody else, because I don't know.
Mike's not one to waste time talking about things he can't change. Besides, he can't afford to. The electricians probably have more trim-out work to do on a project like this than any other subcontractor. Of course, you got stacks of light fixtures, you got ceiling fans, you got smoke detectors. It seemed like it would be a little overwhelming when you're walking in a project this size. And all the outlets too, you got hundreds of outlets to deal with. How long would it take you to put all this together?
Probably about 3-4 days.
Now, always going to be some missing parts.
Always.
Always a few bulbs missing here and there, but we can just keep a list going on that. And then, so you get all your trim out done, and then you've got to call the city for the inspection.
Call for the inspection, and then we can get some power turned on.
Good. While Mike works towards getting that power turned on for us, the other subs have a few chores to take care of as well. The painters have lots of touch-up and cleanup work ahead of them, not the least of which is rehanging those doors they removed to spray out in the garage. And as soon as the doors go in, Mark's crew are right on their heels installing the new door hardware. The guys have completed almost all of the installation of the hardware and doorknobs and so forth, and boy, what a finished look you get when you finally get to put the doorknobs on. You know, a lot of times when people are selecting doorknobs, all they're looking for is just the right finish. Of course, this one from Schlage has the right brushed nickel that we were looking for, but what really makes this so easy to install these days is how they have everything lined up just right. Now, this is a privacy type lock because this is the master bedroom suite, but this is amazing how quick and easy you're able to install these locks these days. I mean, I remember putting these things on and just laboring away at trying to line up these long screws. Now, right now, the way it is, there's no way to mess this up at all. You get it started, get your screwdriver, and there's only one place for that screw to go. Works out great, looks great, and I'm glad to help them put a few of the finishing touches here on the Kuppersmith Project. While I'm taking care of this, check out this week's Simple Solution.
When installing new hardware in cabinet doors, it's important to drill the holes accurately so the handles not only line up, but also are aligned with all the other doors. So the trick is to use a jig, a drilling jig. You can buy plastic jigs like this, but this one is only good for marking the holes, not drilling them. So I prefer to make my own. This is just a simple drilling jig made out of a 1/2-inch plywood block with some stops. These are 1-inch wide stops that I glued and screwed to the back. And now I can just hold it in place. These holes that I drilled earlier line up perfectly with the holes on my handles. So now I'm just going to drill straight through this jig, right through the door. That's all there is to it. You see these holes line up perfectly with the handle. Now the nice thing about using a jig like this is you ordinarily have to drill a lot of holes because there's several doors. And the jig allows you to do it not only quickly but accurately.
While the trim out continues inside, the landscaping keeps moving ahead outside. The irrigation system is complete and the trenches are filled so that the landscape crew can start clearing the ground and marking the locations for planting. The holes for the larger trees will come first since they require the most equipment for digging. Each spot has been carefully matched to Paul's drawing for the landscape, so these guys aren't just setting these things on a whim.
No, come on around.
Each tree is intended for a specific spot, and getting it there requires some mechanical help as well. You don't just roll these things in on a wheelbarrow. But boy, do they make a difference. One thing that's great about planning all of your landscaping from scratch is you're able to strategically place bushes and trees to provide a visual block to something that may not look so good. This is what we're doing with this evergreen tree. It looks great right here on the corner, right by the master bedroom addition, but it's going to block the view of the 2 air conditioning condenser units that'll be sitting on those pads a little bit later today. Now over here, we're trying to create more privacy for the backyard and block out the view of the neighbors here. So river birch here, 2 holly trees will do a very good job in screening all of that out. By the way, we're also putting this great water feature, nice fountain right against the fence right there. Always looks good in a backyard. Then we have another river birch that'll really flower out really nice, and then 3 magnolia trees here that will also bush out and block the view of the old building that we have behind it. Now, just like we're blocking the view of the air conditioning system, we're also going to put a circle of shrubs around our Generac generator. Doesn't look bad, but it'll look a lot better with all of the plants all around it. But here's a very important part of this. A lot of people plant plants around generators or air conditioning systems, but you got to leave a little room for you to be able to work on them if any problems occur, but also for them to operate properly. You got to have that air circulation around any air conditioning system or generator. Before those smaller plants go in, there are still some trees to plant in the front yard, and those are being delivered right now. They're called Japanese yew, and just like the other trees, they've been chosen with a very specific purpose in mind. Their tall, narrow shape won't exactly create a ton of shade, but they should make a very effective privacy screen between this house and the neighbor. Man, I'm amazed at how big these Japanese yews are. I mean, they're like a 8 or 9 foot tall. We'll go with this one. Yep. All right. And how about this dolly? Isn't this a perfect way of carrying the tree? Because the thing, something like that may weigh a couple 100 pounds. we're going to take it over and start the screening that we're going to do between this house and the neighbor's house. You know, they've been exposed over there for about 6 months, so they're pretty happy, I'm sure, to get a little bit of screening over here as much as we are. So they got the first hole dug over here. There we go. Man, that makes it easy. All right. Gonna roll it in or slip it in?
Sure, we're gonna
Roll it in. There you go. All right, that looks great. There you go. Man, that's fantastic. That's so mature. Well, I'll go ahead and start digging the next one now. Man, I sure do wish I had that auger out here right now. Well, I'm doing my best to slow down the landscapers. There's plenty of other stuff going on outside as well. The heating and cooling contractor's installing the home's 2 air conditioning units down along the side of the house. And out in the backyard, Mark is putting together some custom-made shutters for the front of the house. He's joined 3 beveled pieces of the same cypress we've used on other outside surfaces with cleats of the same material. This is a really simple design for shutters, but it's one that fits nicely with the style of this home.
Ready?
While all of this work here on the outside of the Kuppersmith Project continues, let's check in with Jody for a best new product that could be a big help maintaining the outside of your home.
Nowadays, everybody's looking for ways to cut back on their home expenses. And one of the ways that you can do that is by doing your own landscaping. But if you've had a crew come in before, you certainly don't want to sacrifice the professional look they give you every time they're there. Well, you don't have to anymore. Echo, which has provided professional landscaping tools for the professionals for years, has come up with a great line. Now, this is their PAS series, which is their Pro Attachment Series. You buy the power source right here that has a professional grade engine in it with a 5-year warranty, I might add. Once you get this, you can then decide what attachments you want to get. You can get the curved trimmer, you can get the straight trimmer, you can get the blower, or you can get the edger. You can get one or all 4 of them, just depending upon what you want to do. And once you finish your lawn, you're going to have that professional look every time.
While the landscaping outside the Kuppersmith house continues to steadily transform the home's appearance there, the inside is a beehive of work. The glass shower walls and doors have to be installed in the master bath. There are mirrors to be hung in both baths and the powder room. And Artie, our plumber, has to hook up this cool new vessel tub we picked up from Bain Ultra to finish off the master bath. Plus, everywhere you look, there's touch-up work that has to be done by the painters. The panel that Amber's painting in the kitchen is just like this panel, and this is what Joe Boehm, our lead designer for the house and for Better Homes and Gardens, wanted us to create so that we have a little bit of color, a little splash of design here in the dining room on the walls. We have 4 of these panels that we're going to make, and you can see the wallpaper is a sample of it here that will go inside the frames once they're painted and once they're mounted. Now, if you like this idea, just kind of putting a little splash of color in a room like this, well, you can achieve the same thing without having to build a frame if you use the right tape and just a little bit of time. Now, what I did here is I just created these 2 little squares with the intention that you could actually paint around this area to create a framework. You can even put a picture here and do that for a little splash of color around the picture. And this particular tape from Frog Tape has a paint block technology, so it'll prevent any of the paint from seeping out into the lines where you want to keep them nice and straight. That's the only way you can get it really looking like a professional did that. So very easy, you just put the tape on, take your putty knife and kind of smooth it out real well, paint it, and then after it dries just a little while, carefully remove the tape and have those nice clean lines and a way to, again, introduce a little color in a room like this. While controlled chaos reigns downstairs, the plumbing and electrical trim outs are mostly done upstairs. So with the exception of a stray drop cloth or a can of paint, that space is starting to look pretty much complete. Of course, coming back down the stairs, the flurry of activity is overwhelming. And with all this activity, you really have to be vigilant about making messes. That could turn all this progress into losses. Now this is probably my favorite tool during this stage of the job, because even though we're requiring everybody to either wear their socks or little protective booties on their feet, you still can get a little bit of debris here and there on the floor. If it gets ground down into the floor, we can get a lot of scratches, and we want these things to look as good years from now as they do right now. Now, with all the lights on, you can start seeing all kinds of things, particularly little minor flaws on the wall. And since this is a complete smooth finish, we don't want any little dimple at all influencing or affecting the overall look of the house. So now's the time before the final coat goes on to touch that up. The painters are doing a fantastic job. Hey, someone else that's been working hard today is our heating and cooling contractor. We already have our filter in place here. That's ready to go. Have our thermostat in place. And the air conditioning guys will be turning everything on a little bit later today, and that'll really help to keep things nice and cool and to lower the humidity in the house, which is so important for all of our drying times. Now, the electrician has had a tough job, because look at all the light fixtures in the recessed cans and so forth in this one room. And this is a pretty interesting fixture that's hanging right down over the center of the island. And once they take the plastic off these shades and place them, you get an idea of how nice and elegant that'll be right in the middle of the kitchen. And of course, there's so many other details that have to be done before we call this project complete, but man, we're getting close. So while we green up the outside of this place and light up the inside, let's take a break and talk about a lighting idea that's green. The light emitting diode, or LED bulb, is really starting to make its mark on the green light sockets of the world. In the past, they were okay for, say, dim accent lights, low voltage landscape lights, or maybe the strings of lights on your Christmas tree, but not for standard fixtures like recessed lights. Now, as technology continued to develop, you start seeing LED bulbs that cost about $100, which is still a little pricey for practically everyone. But today, you can buy one for under $50. That's still a little too rich for my blood, but the numbers do add up better. Here's what I mean. An LED bulb lasts about 10 times longer than a CFL. That means you can spend about the same amount of money for one LED over its lifetime as you would for the same amount of incandescent bulbs needed for the same fixture. The transformation of the Kuppersmith home has been going on for about 6 months. And while the changes day to day have been incremental, the overall difference has become staggering. There's been an enormous amount of work completed in that time, done by a small army of people who love what they do. This isn't one of those get it done in a week projects designed for TV drama. It's the way renovation should be done, with sustained attention to the details that make a house a great place to call home. There's no substitute for that kind of persistence. It's just hard work, and that's what has gotten us this far. I'll have to admit, I'm getting a little tired of all of the decisions I'm having to make, all of the meetings, the phone calls that are necessary to get a project like this completed. But when I see everything starting to come together, it makes it all worthwhile. But still, there are hundreds of details to complete before we can call this project finished. But in 2 weeks, I'll be able to take you on the grand tour on the inside, the outside, everything will be complete. I'm looking forward to that. Hey, thanks for following along the Kuppersmith Project. I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you next week here on Today's Homeowner. If you never pay attention to the special thanks credits, be sure you do this time. Our Kuppersmith Project partners are the best in the business.